Imagine, if you will, a clock, but this isn't a clock that measures hours, minutes, or seconds in the way we are accustomed to. Rather, it measures the remaining opportunities you have to look into the eyes of the people you love, the number of sunsets you have left to witness, and the finite amount of energy you possess to leave a mark on this world. Most of us live our lives as if this clock has an infinite battery, drifting through the mundane rituals of existence without ever stopping to ask if the path we are treading leads to a destination worth reaching. The fear of death is universal, but there is a far more insidious fear that often goes unaddressed until it is too late. The fear of having lived a life that simply didn't matter. This is not a video about productivity hacks or get-rich-quick schemes. It is a philosophical and practical exploration into the architecture of meaning. We are going to deconstruct what it means to live wastefully and rebuild a framework for a life that feels resonant, intentional, and profoundly significant. To understand how to live a life that isn't wasted, we must first confront the modern paradox of busyness. In our contemporary era, we equate being busy with being important, yet one can be incredibly busy while remaining utterly stagnant in their personal and spiritual evolution. A wasted life is not necessarily one spent in idleness. It is often a life spent running at full speed in the wrong direction, fueled by the expectations of others, the pressures of social media, and the hollow pursuit of status. To escape this trap, we must transition from being reactive participants in our own lives to becoming proactive architects of our destiny. This requires a deep, sometimes uncomfortable dive into the core of our identity, our values, and the legacy we wish to leave behind once that silent clock finally stops ticking. The first structural pillar of a meaningful life is the cultivation of radical self-awareness. Most people are strangers to themselves. They know what they like to eat or what movies they enjoy, but they have never sat in the silence long enough to understand their why. Without a why, as Viktor Frankl famously noted in the aftermath of the Holocaust, any how becomes unbearable. To live without waste, you must embark on the journey of identifying your core values, those non-negotiable principles that define your character. Are you driven by curiosity, by service, by creativity, or by justice? When your daily actions are misaligned with these internal values, you experience existential friction, a feeling of burnout and emptiness that no amount of material success can fill. Therefore, the first step is to audit your life. Look at your calendar, your bank statements, and your conversations, and ask yourself if they reflect the person you actually want to be or merely the person you have been conditioned to become. Furthermore, we must understand the difference between external validation and internal resonance. We live in a world designed to make us crave the applause of the crowd, the likes, the followers, the promotions that sound good at dinner parties. However, if your sense of worth is anchored in the opinions of others, you are essentially handing the steering wheel of your life to a committee of people who aren't even looking at the road. A life that is not wasted is one where the primary audience is your own conscience. It is about doing the right thing when no one is watching and pursuing excellence, not because it will be rewarded, but because it is a reflection of your inner standards. This shifts the focus from "what can I get" to "who am I becoming?" And it is in this shift that the first seeds of true significance are sown. One of the greatest thieves of time and potential is the wait for the perfect moment. We often tell ourselves that we will start our passion project, repair our broken relationships, or prioritize our health once things settle down, or when we have more money. This is a cognitive illusion because life, by its very nature, is a series of storms. Things never truly settle down. By waiting for a perfect environment that does not exist, we effectively waste the only thing we actually possess, the present moment. A life well lived is built in the messy, imperfect middle of chaos. It is the realization that the right time is a myth designed to keep you safe in your comfort zone. To avoid a wasted life, you must learn to fail forward, embracing the friction of beginning before you feel ready, for it is through the act of doing that clarity is born, not through the act of thinking. In this context, we must also address the paralyzing nature of optimization culture. We are obsessed with finding the most efficient way to do everything, the best diet, the best workout, the best career path, to the point where we spend more time researching how to live than actually living. This hyper-intellectualization leads to analysis paralysis, where the fear of making a suboptimal choice prevents us from making any choice at all. But a life is not a math problem to be solved. It is an experience to be felt. Sometimes the wrong path taken with full intention and heart teaches us more than the right path taken out of obligation. To live a life that isn't wasted is to recognize that movement is superior to meditation when it comes to personal growth. You cannot steer a parked car. You must be in motion for life to provide you with the feedback necessary to find your true north. If self-awareness is the foundation, then contribution is the roof that protects the structure of your life. A life lived solely for oneself is, by definition, a small life. There is a profound biological and psychological truth in the idea that our happiness is intrinsically linked to the well-being of others. When we talk about not wasting our lives, we are often talking about legacy. Legacy is not just about building monuments or having your name on a building. It is about the emotional wake you leave behind. Every interaction you have is an opportunity to either deplete or nourish another person's spirit. Are you a person who brings light into a room, or do you suck the oxygen out of it? By shifting your focus toward how you can serve, whether through your profession, your art, or simple acts of daily kindness, you tap into a source of meaning that is immune to the fluctuations of personal fortune. Consider the concept of Ikigai, the Japanese philosophy that represents the intersection of what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. While the financial aspect is practical, the what the world needs part is what prevents the other three from becoming selfish. When you find a way to align your unique talents with a problem that exists in the world, you no longer have to search for meaning. Meaning finds you. This doesn't require you to quit your job and join a nonprofit. It requires you to infuse whatever you are already doing with a sense of mission. A janitor who believes they are maintaining a sanctuary for healing is living a far more significant life than a CEO who believes they are merely moving numbers on a spreadsheet. Purpose is not found. It is forged through the intention we bring to our labor. We often fall into the trap of believing that a significant life is made up of significant moments, the graduations, the weddings, the big promotions. However, if you do the math, these peak experiences make up less than 1% of your total existence. The other 99% is composed of the mundane, washing dishes, commuting to work, waiting in line, and sleeping. Therefore, if you only feel alive during the highlights, you are effectively wasting the vast majority of your life. To live truly is to master the art of the mundane. It is about practicing presence or mindfulness, ensuring that you are actually in the room when you are in the room. We waste our lives by living in the ghost worlds of the past, regret, or the future, anxiety, neglecting the only reality that actually exists, the eternal now. Cultivating a sense of wonder in the ordinary is a superpower. It involves slowing down enough to appreciate the complexity of a leaf, the taste of your morning coffee, or the rhythm of your own breath. When you stop treating the present moment as a mere stepping stone to a better future moment, you reclaim the hours that would otherwise be lost to the fog of distraction. This is particularly difficult in the age of the smartphone, where our attention is the most valuable commodity being traded on the global market. Every time you mindlessly scroll through a feed, you are trading pieces of your life for a hit of dopamine that leaves you emptier than before. To live a life that isn't wasted, you must become a guardian of your attention, realizing that what you look at is what you become. Choose to look at things that expand your soul rather than things that shrink your perspective. A common misconception is that a good life is a life free of pain. In reality, a life without challenge is a life without growth, and a life without growth is a slow form of decay. We often waste our potential by avoiding the very things that would make us stronger because they are uncomfortable. But comfort is the graveyard of the soul. To ensure your life isn't wasted, you must develop a healthy relationship with voluntary hardship. This means choosing the difficult path over the easy one, whether it's having a hard conversation you've been avoiding, pushing your physical limits, or learning a complex new skill that makes you feel like a beginner again. Suffering is an inevitable part of the human condition, but unnecessary suffering comes from resisting the reality of change. Furthermore, we must embrace the gifts of failure. In our success-obsessed culture, failure is viewed as a dead end, a sign that we should stop. But in the narrative of a meaningful life, failure is merely a data point. It is the friction that polishes the diamond. Every mistake you make is an education, provided you have the humility to learn from it. A wasted life is one where the person was so afraid of looking foolish that they never tried anything that mattered. On your deathbed, you will not regret the times you tried and failed. You will regret the times you were too afraid to try at all. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the realization that something else, your growth, your integrity, your contribution, is more important than that fear. As we reach the conclusion of this blueprint, we must return to the image of the clock. The Stoic philosophers had a practice called memento mori. Remember that you must die. To the modern ear, this sounds morbid, but to the seeker of a meaningful life, it is the ultimate liberation. If you truly internalize the fact that your time is limited, the trivialities of life, the petty arguments, the social anxieties, the pursuit of empty status, begin to evaporate, what remains is the essential. Death is not the enemy of life, it is the frame that gives the picture its value. Without the ending, the story would have no structure. By keeping the end in mind, you are forced to prioritize what truly matters today. So, how do you live so that your life isn't wasted? You start by waking up. You stop sleepwalking through the scripts written for you by society. You define your values. You embrace the discomfort of growth. You serve others with your unique gifts, and you find the sacred in the ordinary. You recognize that meaning is not a destination you arrive at, but a way of traveling. It is a daily practice, a series of small intentional choices that accumulate over decades into a life of significance. Don't wait for a wake-up call in the form of a tragedy or a health scare to start living. The fact that you are breathing right now is your invitation. Take your life off autopilot, grab the controls, and fly toward the horizon of your highest potential. Because in the end, the only thing worse than the end of life is the realization that you never truly began it. If this message resonated with you, I encourage you to pick one area we discussed today, whether it's self-awareness, contribution, or mastering the mundane, and take one small concrete action toward it today. Don't let this be just another video you watch. Let it be the catalyst for the life you deserve to live. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.